This is the To Be Single or Not To Be podcast, and we're doing what? Running it back.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Shaanah Montanna YouTube channel, and we are returning with the second half of the Running It Back series. We started it last summer, it went into the fall, and then we took a little bit of a break for a lot of reasons. If you tap in with my Distracted series that is connected to the new Shaanah Montanna journal collection, you will understand what happens when you get distracted and why in the year of our Lord 2024, we are no longer allowing distractions to control our life. So today, we are getting back to the Running It Back series, but today we are going to talk about the sisterhood of friendships. And this is an episode that I touched on a couple of times in previous seasons with great sister friends of mine. And at this point in my life, I felt it was a requirement to record this episode and talk about it because I am singing a completely different tune. And one of the biggest messages I want to lead with in this episode is I want everybody to stop allowing social media, the trends that you see on TikTok about cutting people off, the things that people push forward about, if you ain't heard from somebody in 30 days and, you waited to reach out and you didn't hear from them and they didn't hear from you, that must mean that they don't mess with you. And just things of that direction that don't really align with what a friendship means. And it really doesn't align if you call yourself a friend and then you play those kinds of games, because like I've said before, we don't like for men to play games with us, so why do we treat our friends like niggas and play with them? So I think it is a requirement today to have this conversation around not allowing outside factors to affect a sisterhood and a friendship when it's real life shit going on that we need to be focused on within that friendship and that sisterhood. And if we're playing games, we don't get a chance to experience that sometimes because we end up losing the friendship. And I posted something about this on TikTok recently, and somebody commented and said that, she hated that she lost her best friend from the kind of games that were being played where they weren't, reaching out to one another. And the whole time, come to find out, both of them were depressed. But nobody was reaching out because we were on the other side of the phone, centering ourselves and making it about us. When at the end of the day, most times if a person decides, and I say most times, not all, if a person decides to take a step back, and they fade to black and they start to disappear a little bit, you may not be hearing from them as much. I'm pretty sure when they made the decision to do that, you were not at the forefront of their mind. You were not the focal reason why they made a decision to step back from life, because I bet you they didn't just step back from you. They stepped back from a lot of things. But I'm going to pause right there, put a pin in that, because we're going to dive into that as we go into this episode. So overall, I'm just going to lead out the gate with saying that grace is renewed every day. And what that means to me, and what I want you to think about when I say that, is that grace being renewed every single day means that you have to wake up every single day and make a conscious, intentional, and wildly focused decision to renew grace with some people, places, and things every single day in order to move forward with them and function with them and have a life around them. And you can apply that to situations where it works. You might not like certain things that people do, but you still got to show up and go to work, and you still got to work with these people, and you have to be able to give grace and renew it and go forward in that. But the other side of that is, grace is something that I think should be a foundational piece of every single friendship, because at the core of the things that I'm about to dive into, if you are not willing to give someone that you call a friend the benefit of the doubt when things are not going in the direction that you think that they should go in, how can you really call yourself their friend? But also, how can you really, because we always are going to end up doing it at some point, how can you ask for somebody to give you grace and give you the benefit of the doubt when you aren't willing to extend it to others? So I think that when it comes to friendship, you have to be able to look at different situations and recognize that, we are not all ever gonna be on the same exact journey at the same exact time doing the same exact things. It's like if two women are pregnant, I'm sure both of their journeys are different. If two people are in medical school, I'm sure their journeys are different. If two people are single with no kids, I'm sure their journey of life is different. So we have to understand that there are always going to be differences, even when on the outside looking in, it may look like your life is the same. And when you think about a friendship, you have to understand that many times at our age group, 35 plus, many of us have been friends with each other for 10, 15, sometimes 20 years. And we have all been on different journeys in different walks of life. And we have gone through our own peaks and valleys, our highs and lows. Some things we've told our friends about. I'm sure there are some things you've never told your friends about. But at the end of the day, these are people that you call your friends. So you have to understand that when I am going through a different walk of life, that may cause me to say, okay, I need to take a step back from life. And life includes everything: people, places, and things, friends, family, travel, work, whatever label you want to put on it. Sometimes people have to be able to take a step back. And as I mentioned earlier, we have to make sure that we are not centering ourselves in the midst of a situation where we should not be the center. We are not meant to be the center. And it is somebody else's life that they are going through this major life experience that is making them take a step back from being in the forefront of the friendship. And so it's not to say, that just because a person takes a step back or you don't hear from them from X amount of time, that you all aren't really friends, or that there's a issue within the friendship. But I think in moments of like that, I think what we need to evaluate is that if you have someone who you say is a friend and that friend goes dark, that's the time to actually check on the friend. The TikTok I posted the other day, the girl was like, I went 30 days and I didn't reach out to my friend and she didn't reach out to me. So that friendship is over because, it was clear that she don't mess with me. And that's crazy to me. Like, at this point, I'll say, honestly, I would say in the past few years, I went through some things in friendships where at one point, I think I was kind of on a fine line of that road with certain people. But that's why I talked about grace earlier, because it was like some people who I have some friends I never talk to on the phone, but we see each other, we pick up where we left off, and I don't think twice about it. Some friends I talk to occasionally, but in the time in between of talking to them, I'm not anywhere centering myself thinking that, she must not care about me. She don't give a damn about me. Something's going on in friendship. I don't think twice about it. And then it was like some friends that I would think, or people I would say, okay, I'm not hearing from this person. Maybe I am reaching out some, maybe I'm not. But at the same time, I'm thinking like, damn, she must not mess with me, because I'm reaching out to her a little bit. And mind you, I'm saying a little bit. I ain't doing a lot. But I ain't heard from this person. And I'm making a decision to put this person in a box and say, they must not be fooling with me. But I gave all that grace to the other people I call friends. So I get that also some people may say there are friendship levels. You have like you have your best friend. You have, you have friends that sit in different seats and have different purposes and operate in different spaces. But at the end of the day, to me, someone who I call a friend is a friend. Yes, some friends are closer than others, but a friend is a friend. And I have to be able to give that grace to extend it across the board. So when I got in that space of recognizing like, okay, I'm not hearing from this friend and I want to hear from this friend, and I'm choosing not to reach out, and I'm choosing to just see what's going to happen. And then when what I think doesn't happen, I'm choosing to take a step back from the friendship. And that led me to a space to be like, who is that fair to? That's not even fair to me to lose out on a friendship because of wild assumptions that I'm making. It's not fair to the person that's my friend that's on the other side of that in all of those instances, whatever was going on with them had zero to do with me. And it's just not fair to be in a space to make decisions like that when you haven't given your friend the opportunity to even tell you what may be going on if you reach out, or for you to show up in that space and see how you can support them. So overall, it's more so about just recognizing that if you have someone that you call a friend, communication, first I said, grace is going to have to be the foundation of that. But the other part that has to be at the foundation of a friendship is going to be communication. And I think when it comes to communication, many times if we tend to say, if sometimes people go dark because they're depressed, they're going through something personal, and they just don't have the capacity or the bandwidth or the tools to deal with it openly with other people. So they're trying to figure it out before they tell you, if they ever tell you, or before they bring it to the forefront. But I think the other part of that is, if you have a situation like that, or you have a situation where it may not be that the person is going through anything, they may just be, busy living their life. And they haven't stopped loving you. They haven't stopped caring about you. They just are living life and you all haven't communicated. I think it's essential that we recognize that communication, again, in relationships is essential. Whether it be a romantic relationship, a platonic relationship, a friendship requires that communication. So I think we have to keep that in the forefront. It goes both ways, but you can't keep score. That's the other part of it. Like, I called her last month. She ain't called me. If you want to talk to your goddamn friend, call your friend. Text your friend. Reach out to your friend. I don't care if you are the person that initiates the conversation all the time. When you call her, is it not all love? Is it not all fun? Is it not all good? You just may be, like, I understand some parts of my certain relationships that I have in friendships. I'm the planner. I'm the one that's going to take the lead on certain stuff. I'm going to book the Airbnb because they know how I feel about bathrooms. I understand we wear certain hats in friendships. What's the big damn deal if you are the person that calls your friend? But guess what? If that's something that sits on your heart and you feel like you don't want to be the person that is initiating all the conversations, guess what? Tell your friend. Talk to your friend. Tell Sister K, hey, bitch, I'm always the one calling you. I need you to call me sometimes. I bet most times if that's your friend, she gonna say, okay. Or y'all have a conversation around it if she does have an objection. But communicate with your friend. And then that's the other piece. I have talked to too many people in regards to sisterhood and friendships that people have lost friendships. Friendships have been broken and sometimes not mended because there has been a lack of communication around a problem that has happened, and somebody on some side has not communicated that to the other person to figure out if there can be a possible resolve. And if you have a problem with someone that you call a friend and you choose not to communicate it, you need to evaluate if that person, one, is a friend, but two, why you don't want to communicate it, and three, how you want to proceed. Because at the end of the day, you know, you still walking around saying this is my friend, but you ain't talked to said friend in like a year, and you haven't communicated to that friend directly what your issue is. So like, what are you doing? Because too many times it's situations where something happens. Sometimes both parties know something has happened. Sometimes something happens and you are the person that feels a way about the thing that happened, and you never communicated to the other person. And is that really fair? If we're walking around, we have an issue, we have not communicated it to the other person, and we feel like, you know, our friendship is dying or dwindling, or, you know, it's just, it is what it is. I'm on a healing, you know, I'm protecting my peace. I'm on a healing journey. I don't have time for that. But you should have time for it. So that's the biggest thing I see, is that with communication, the sooner you talk about the problem, the better. And holding it in or assuming that the worst thing is going on the other side of that problem, or that the person doesn't care about you, is the worst thing that can happen. And I have seen that up close and personal with people close to me. But I also personally have been in situations where I have been on the other side of it, where I felt like I had an issue with the person, or I just was making assumptions about how the person was moving, and I chose not to communicate it. But the moment that I did communicate it, I feel like we resolved the shit in like 20 minutes. Because neither one of us are hateful or angry people, and we have, you know, love for one another. So when I was able to bring whatever said issue was to the person, or what my thoughts were, I wouldn't even say in that situation was really an issue, but what my thoughts were, it's like, okay, yeah, it was easily resolved. But too many times I just see situations where people think, you know, I have an issue that I don't hear from my friend. That could be the issue. And I choose not to communicate it. I choose to say, I'm going to see if I can go 30 days without hearing from my friend. And if I don't hear from her, that means she didn't care about me and this friendship is over. How fucking old are we? What kind of game are we playing to be doing things like that? So communication is going to be key. We always say in healthy and happy relationships, romantic ones, that we want a partner who can communicate. How are you communicating your relationships? How are you communicating your friendships? Do right now, and listening to this, is there a conversation that you need to have with somebody because you feel like something has happened and you are upset about it, and you ain't even told said person, you know, you ain't told said person that you have an issue with them? So communication, that's another foundational piece. Now, the other thing I think is huge in regards to friendships is that we have to be able to leave room for growth. You have to understand that, you know, I think I'm very blessed in the sense of the people that I do call friends. I have, you know, my best friend has been my best friend since childhood. And then I have great friends and college best friends that I've gathered. And then, you know, going through life and different organizations and different events, you meet different people. But I think that when it comes to friendships, you have to understand that sometimes your relationships are going to grow and change and look different at times. And sometimes it may be somebody that you are close to that at a certain space in their life on a certain journey, you may not be as close to them. But that does not mean that the relationship has to die or that it has to dwindle and become nothing. I feel like, everybody, as I mentioned before, is going to be on different journeys. But you have to understand, when people sometimes, this is a easy example. Sometimes when people get in relationships or get married, sometimes when people have children, you understand that as a person family expands, they have to give more of their time to their husband and to their children. But I've had great experiences where my friends have not negated the friendship just because of that. But I understand that it looks different. I understand that if I'm taking, I was about to say, I understand if I'm taking 10 trips a year, they can't take, them hoes be gone more than me. So, so I'm saying, the thing is, maybe we can't take as many trips together or twirl as much because they have things going on with their family. But it doesn't mean any love is lost in between that. We have people that may be starting new jobs or moving away. That means we have to be more intentional with the time that we put in and get set up. We have people that are, elevating in life, doing different things at work, starting new business ventures. They may be inside a little more working on that. But no matter what the journey is, the friendship is always there. They're always a call or text away. And if I do feel like, damn, I ain't heard from so-and-so in a while, I ain't seen so-and-so in a while, let me reach out to them. That's something that we have to be intentional about. And I know in 2024, overall, I try to be intentional with my friendships. But there has been, situations where I thought about, going into the new year, there are people that I want to see more. There are people that I want to talk to on the phone more. There are people that I want to hear from more. And, again, I'm not centering myself in anybody else's life. So I don't know what they have going on exactly. But I can say even starting out this new year, I recently went to lunch with a friend that's moving away. We're very intentional about that. I'm like, I want to see you before you leave Nashville. So we met up, ate, had a ball. I had another friend girl just this past weekend. I was like, I feel like I have not seen you in like 6 months. We are about to put something on the planner, on the calendar for February. I have 2 people like that I haven't seen in a while. So it may just be like once a quarter. I don't want to talk to you on the phone. I want to text you. I want to see you. Then I have other friends that, live out of state. I haven't been to DC in a while. I told a friend, like, I'm looking at the calendar trying to figure out what date I can get to DC to see you. Because last time she came to Nashville and kicked it with me. So it's like, okay, now I got to get to DC to see you because I haven't been in a while. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So intentionality is going to be the name of the game, especially as we grow and are on these different journeys in life. But I think it's all about just acknowledging that and being aware and not feeling like, okay, they moved. They have a family. They're working over here. That is no room for me. If you're the friends that you say you are, there is room for you. And I think we just have to be hyper aware of that and really put the time and attention into it. And I think the other part of it comes down to, something I recommend is that if you have friends that say, live out of state, you have friends that, live and are walking a different path in life, with family or children, whatever the case may be, make it a plan to, if they live in the same city, maybe once a quarter, but somebody out of town, make it a plan to like see each other at least once a year. Either I'm going to come to you or you going to come to me, or we going to meet up somewhere and go do something. When it comes to other things, plan a lunch date, plan a brunch date. We gonna go to Top Golf. Plan a wine night. You gonna come over here, we just gonna drink. Like, get intentional with the friendships, but also get intentional about when you have someone who you call a friend, especially friends that you typically have talked to on a regular basis, and then you recognize that your friend has gone dark. Get intentional about let's say this. Let's normalize when our friends go dark, not going dark on them. Let's normalize reaching out to our friends and checking on them and calling them and texting them and pulling up on them if necessary. And even when that friend says, I'm okay, and you know damn well they not okay, to be persistent in reaching out to that friend because that friend needs you. And in that moment, they may not recognize that they need you. They may not want your help. They may not welcome your help. They may tell you to leave them the hell alone. But if it is someone that you call a friend, you have to recognize that this is my friend. I know my friend is going through something. I'm going to be there for my friend. I don't care if she pushes back, because when she comes out of whatever it is that she is going through, she is going to thank me and give me a hug and a kiss on my cheek and tell me she is so grateful that I did what I did because she needed it. I can promise you that right now. So normalize that. Normalize not going dark, not going fading to black because your friend faded to black. Your friend faded to black, you need to be showing up with a flashlight in the daytime trying to see what the hell is going on. And then I think another part that has to be at the foundation, so just to recap quickly, we talked about giving grace, we talked about communicating, closed mouths do not get fed, and we talked about leaving room for growth and being intentional within that growth, that as people grow and move and shake in the world, you have to be intentional about getting in where you fit in within the friendship, because that's going to be a requirement. You know, I recognize that as a single woman with no children, I got a little bit more time. My time can be moved around. I'm gonna say I got a little bit more time because my time is just, I'm busy. I'm booked and busy. But I can navigate and move my time around because I only got to move me around. I don't have to move a family around. I don't have to move as much around. So I'm fine with being a little bit more flexible. Like I can come to you, whatever the case may be, but leaving room for growth and being intentional about how you connect. The connectivity has to be there. And then not fading to black when your friend fade to black as well. And then the other thing is we have to recognize that when it comes to the friendship, I'm going to tell you this. Hear me and hear me loud. You both have to have a desire for the friendship to exist if it's going to exist. So all of that valuable information I just gave is null and void if you are dealing with someone who no longer desires to be a friend of yours. So you have to recognize that if things are going a certain way, if you are putting forth the energy, you are putting forth the effort, you are reaching out, your friend is pushing back, your friend is making excuses, your friend treating you like a nigga. You know how niggas do, like when they want you to break up with them, they start doing certain stuff trying to get you to break up with them. They'll never admit it. When your friends start doing stuff trying to get you, like pushing you away from them, you got to evaluate. And then that's when you got to kick in that communication I just talked about, to have a real ass conversation with that person. And hopefully you're dealing with somebody who can be upfront and honest about it, because that is another trend that I am seeing on social media often about, you know, friendship breakups. And I watched one recently where this young lady was talking about how she said, because I asked in her comments, did she feel like her and her friend just became incompatible? But basically the long and short, she was saying that she got to basically, I gathered, like a certain space in life, and she felt like her friend could not support her in that space in life. And when I asked her, you know, did she feel like they just became incompatible? She was like, no. And so I pushed back, and I didn't push back. I just asked her, like, did she ever think that her friend could kind of grow to the point of being able to support her in whatever space she was in? And I don't recall what the space was because she said a whole lot. But all of that being said, it was just a situation where she went through a friendship breakup because she felt like she wasn't supported enough. And she was able to communicate that to her friend. And so that's her situation. But I'll just say this. Again, in order for a relationship of any kind to exist, both parties have to have a desire to be in it. So don't have your blinders on, in a sense. If you're in a situation where you feel like you're being abused, you're being used, you're being neglected, like you're having all these things happening to you, and you are like giving, you know, fighting for your life, trying to hold on to this friendship or trying to make this friendship happen, and you realize that you are in the ring fighting alone. Like that's time for you to step back and recognize and have a conversation, or have conversations around that, because not every friendship is meant to or is going to stand the test of time forever and ever. It's a beautiful thing if it can, but that's just not meant for all of them. So I don't want to get anything that I'm saying twisted in a sense of thinking that like you should, every friendship that you have, you need to fight for it and make it work. What I'm telling you is that if you do have a friendship that is worth it, in a friendship where two people desire to be in it, these are the things that you should be doing, or I suggest that you do, in order to sustain it and maintain it and have it flourish and be a beautiful thing. But if you're on the other side of it, where somebody's treating you like shit, somebody's not showing up, somebody's not reciprocating anything, somebody's not communicating with you, that person's not being intentional with you, that person's not understanding growth, that person doesn't, you know, is not understanding, you know, other friendships that you may have, that person doesn't communicate with you, that person gives you no grace, they don't give a fuck about the benefit of the doubt. It's probably somebody that friendship has expired. And just like, you know, they say on the Read podcast, break up with him, sis. I always say on the To Be Single or Not to Be podcast, we say what? If people show you that they do not like you, they probably do not like you. So do not date people that do not like you. So do not try to remain in a friendship with people that do not like you. So you have to figure out if that friend do not like you. If they don't like you no more, then it's a chance that that friendship is over. So you have to be able to evaluate. You have to evaluate that. So the thing overall is that when it comes to friendships, they are a beautiful thing. And with friendships, you have to just recognize that not centering yourself in somebody else's life, in the narrative of somebody else's life when they are going through something, or they need to just take a beat and step back, or they need to go dark for a second, or they need to move differently for a little bit, and not in a negative way, but move differently meaning like do something else in their life. That is not grounds for us to take that personal. That is not grounds for us to make that about us, because you see that a lot on socials and in the world. Something happens in somebody else's life and all of a sudden it became about you. This ain't your story. Get out. What Dave Chappelle say, you know, like, who are you? How do you show up in other people's story? You know, so this ain't your story. Don't make it about you. But we have to recognize all of those things, that when stuff is happening around friendships, that we have to be open to give that grace, and we have to be open to love our friend through sometimes, you know, shaky patches. You know, it's the same thing as like, I've seen friends, and I know friends have seen me, and you know, y'all know I got a new rule. I've seen friends go through things in, say, romantic relationships, that I'm on the outside looking in like, I don't really like that for her, or I don't really like that she's doing that, but that's her life and I'm gonna let her live it until she asks me about it, then I'll tell her. But y'all know my rule is, if I bring somebody around and they trash, I give you permission to tell me. Or if you see me moving crazy with somebody, I give you permission to tell me. That's on some episode I talked about. But the same thing, I think, you know, if we are looking at situations and, you know, we don't like what is happening within our friendship, it's communication. It's talking to your friend. It's being open. It's being honest. It's giving grace that your friend may make a mistake. It's giving grace that your friend may hurt you. It's giving grace that your friend may do some things that you do not damn like, but you choose to forgive them. You choose to talk about it. It's understanding that friendships are going to change. They're going to look differently. You can grow closer. You can grow apart. You can come back closer. But it's all about the intentionality that you put within that when you see the friendship growing and changing and moving and thriving in other areas. You have to be able to recognize, like, okay, this friendship is starting to look a little different. Do I like it or do I not? Let me communicate. Let me figure out what I need to do and then move accordingly. And I think the last part is just you have to have that desire for that friendship to exist at all. If you're in a space where you have decided like, I'm good on her, I'm good on him, then be good on them. And I ain't saying you gotta type up a 4-page letter or send a telegram and tell them I don't fuck with you. But I think that if it's something that has triggered you to the point where you have decided that you are going to exit stage left from that friendship, then have a conversation about it. Just the same way we talked about communication before. If something's going on in that friendship and you want to salvage it and still have the friendship, then you need to talk about it. But the same thing, if you decide that you want to exit stage left, then you need to figure out what it looks like to move accordingly. But at the end of the day, at the day's end, what I'm always say is that, you know, friendships can be a beautiful thing. Just like any relationship, they take work, they take energy, they take intentional effort. And I just say the same way that you want your friends to show up for you, make sure that you are showing up for them. And at the end of the day, as we get older, as we grow, as we change, as we thrive, as we evolve, we got to understand that our friendships and relationships are going to look a little bit different. But what are we doing to make sure that as we go through these changes and we evolve, that our friendships can still at least be maintained, if that's what you desire? So that's my 25 cents on friendships in 2024. I talked about this several years ago, probably 2 or 3 years ago, and since my tune has changed, I was excited to talk about it today. So I hope that you all are able to take what you need. You know, they say take the meat, leave the bones. Take what you need, share this with a friend, repost on social media, let the people know to like, follow and subscribe to the Shaanah Montanna YouTube channel, but also make sure that you go and subscribe to the To Be Single or Not To Be podcast. And with that, I'm signing off. Yours truly, Shaanah Montanna.